Hi, and welcome to SONIQLOOX presents Sound Of, the show that explores the stories behind the music that moves us. Today, we're stepping into the beautiful chaos of Welcome to the Madhouse, the debut album from Australian singer-songwriter Tones and I. But before we get into the heart of the music, I want to share how I first found this album, or maybe how it found me. Like most of the world, I first heard Tones and I through Dance Monkey. That song was everywhere, on the radio, in stores, playlists, TikTok, everywhere. But the first time I really connected with her music wasn't on the radio at all. It was in a video game, Fortnite. During the pandemic, when concerts were canceled and the world felt disconnected, Fortnite turned into a kind of virtual stage. Fortnite launched the Soundwave series in early 2022, a lineup of in-game concerts that blended live performance with virtual immersion. One of those shows was...
Hey everyone, it's Tones and I. Welcome to the Madhouse.
Welcome to a place where you can play.
I loaded into the event not knowing what to expect. Suddenly, I was flying through color and light, surrounded by Tone's voice. It felt alive, cinematic, and strangely emotional. For a few minutes, it didn't feel like a game anymore. It felt like a connection. And when the show ended, I immediately went looking for the album. And once I found it, I couldn't stop listening. Every song hit differently. Some with joy, some with ache, but all with truth.
Welcome to the Madhouse. You've never seen a place like this before. Welcome to the
Tones and I's story feels almost unreal. Busking on the streets of Byron Bay one year, topping charts around the world the next. You obviously never expect that your music would go as big as it did, she told Apple Music. Her rise to fame came fast, maybe too fast. And when the world shut down, all that momentum came to a halt. In that stillness, she started writing what would become Welcome to the Madhouse. Songs about loss, loneliness, anxiety, and the madness of success itself. This is the first time I'm actually just dumping a body of music, she said. I wanted to show the up and down emotions I felt, not only through lockdown, but since I first started busking and writing music, she continued.
Why am I so damn lonely? Am I the only one who feels this way?
Now, the track Lonely is one of the album's emotional anchors. She said it's about depression, about how people want you to take medication when what you really crave is love. That kind of honesty hits hard, especially when you realize how often artists, and people in general, hide that truth behind performance, work, or a smile.
Take me to the west side, lobby, far away, where I can do what I want and I can say what I want to say.
Then there's West Side Lobby, her answer to online criticism and public pressure. She wrote it after being attacked online, reminding herself not to let the best thing in her life become the worst. That's not just a celebrity problem, though. It's something that almost anyone can relate to. The challenge of protecting your peace when the world feels loud and judgmental. That theme, the balance between expression and emotion, is one I wanted to explore a bit deeper. So I reached out to someone who understands that space from both sides. I want to introduce someone whose work lives right at the intersection of music and mental health. My friend Carmynn Bradley is a Las Vegas-based therapist and musician. As a clinical professional counselor, Carmynn specializes in trauma, anxiety, identity, and narrative therapy, helping people reshape the stories they tell themselves and heal from the ones that hurt. She's trained in modalities like parts and memory therapy, CBT, DBT, and NLP, and she brings that expertise together with her creative background as a songwriter and performer. Her music, like her therapy work, is emotionally honest and deeply human, exploring what connects us through art, pain, and joy. Carmynn helps artists, creatives, and everyday people navigate the emotional highs and lows that come with making, performing, and simply feeling deeply. I wanted her perspective on how creativity and mental health overlap and what we can all learn from that connection. So, Carmynn, thanks for taking some time to join us here on Sound Of. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it as well.
Well, let's dive right in. I have a series of questions I'm going to ask you, and I just want to get your thoughts on them all. So,
That's good.
As both a musician and a therapist, how do you see the connection between creativity and mental health?
This is an interesting one because working in mental health means that I encounter a lot of the bad side of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so my perspective on how creativity and mental health go hand in hand is directly tied to my, I don't want to say it, maybe ability or maybe just the fact of the matter, which is that I encountered depression and anxiety and PTSD and whatnot. And so for me, creativity is a tool for healing. And in my own personal life and my own journey with mental health, creativity has and continues to save me. It's something that keeps me stable. It's something that helps me ride the waves of intense emotions. And without it, I would honestly spin out of control. And I see it in my clients as being also just a tool for stability, a tool for healing, a tool for self-reflection, lots of stuff.
Well, you answered my second question about how experiences as an artist influence your approach to mental health.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one because as an artist, I was reflecting on this earlier before I met with you. As an artist, I think that I can be maybe a little too closely tied to my identity as somebody who has been mentally ill. Like, I think that the two go hand in hand or something. And I would like to switch that narrative for myself to be maybe something closer to, as an artist, I have the power to like create stability for myself. And so as an artist and a therapist at the same time, it just really helps me inform working with people because I've had these experiences and I've had to learn how to navigate them on my own and how to use my creative life to do that. And that's just a really powerful tool. Despite all the stuff you learn in school, like personal experience just like takes the cake.
Yeah. So can writing or performing music be considered a form of therapy then? And if so, are there limits, do you think, on how healing it can be?
Yeah, I thought about that one too. I think that therapy has two definitions. Like there's therapy when you go to therapy with a therapist and, you know, you're paying for it and you're asking to heal from very specific things or traumas or habits or behaviors. And then there's therapy, which is a word that people use to describe like things that they're doing for self-care or for healing purposes.
Good point. Okay.
And so I think if you're using that second definition, yes, music and creating and writing can be therapy because it's therapeutic and because it's cathartic. I don't know that you can set limits on it. Like, I think there are none. However, I think that there are certain things that would make it more powerful. Like if you are in therapy and you're doing art as therapy, then the combination of what you're doing with the understanding of what's going on with you psychologically or subconsciously, I think can create more powerful healing.
Makes sense. Now, many musicians, and I'm sure you face this from time to time as well, they face intense pressure, whether it's from fame, social media, or even their own perfectionism. What kind of toll can that take on mental well-being?
Yeah, that one, that one kind of goes back to like what I was saying, I think in the second or third question about like my identity as an artist being very closely tied to like basically being unstable. I don't know that it can just like reinforce bad habits, and
Okay.
there's ways to counter that for sure, but it's easy to get lost in that. Like it's easy to get lost in that pressure, which essentially is just like an emotion. But when it's an emotion coupled with thoughts, coupled with fears, coupled with doubt, like all of that can just create I don't know, just like a recipe for almost just like a lot of negative feelings. And at the end of the day, like performance for me is something that I do because I love it and because I genuinely feel that like it's something within my DNA that I must do or I will be unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, this is something that I'm trying to reshape for myself where I would like to get away from just letting the pressure and the doubt overtake me because there's really no reason for it. But this is interesting because it makes me think about work I do with clients too, where people do get wrapped up in almost like being addicted to negative patterns, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. And so it's hard often to let go of those things and to accept that maybe it can be a wholly positive experience, or at least more so positive than negative. But that takes time. And again, I think that's why when you asked about like therapy and music, I think that's why having more intentional therapeutic things outside of music can be helpful to create this like essential recipe for more healing that creates like more peace rather than continuing to every time you get a gig, you freak out and then you until you're ready to prepare, which has been the MO.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah.
So in that same sense, if you will, creativity can be both isolating and deeply connective, right? So how does that solitude affect artists differently depending on their current mental state?
Yeah, I mean, for this one, I can really only speak from my experiences. It would be great to have a round table with other artists about
Oh,
this,
that
but
would be awesome. Yeah.
that would be great. Um, but yeah, for me, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying before. Like I feel like that I need more solitude. Again, because of how I feel about what my creative life is for me. Like I think that it's like a soul contract in a way. I genuinely believe that.
Hmm.
After I perform, I feel tired, but I feel better. It's like I feel
Right.
soulfully rejuvenated. And so, therefore, like I need a lot of solitude in order to make sure that I am either preparing for my performances or giving myself space and time to even just meditate and reflect. So, because creativity, like if we're talking not just preparing for gigs where I'm covering other artists, but when I'm doing my own work and creating, the best way to do that is to have space to allow
Okay.
for like your creative well to like open up. And so I simply like need that. And so therefore I guess I've had to heal from the loneliness that can come with solitude. And it has gotten a lot easier. I must say, like, if there are artists who do struggle with that, like making those sacrifices, it does become worth it over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they say music often is a vessel for grief and loss. So, from your experience, how does creating or engaging with music help people process these emotions?
Mm. I mean, I think especially for those who are not going to therapy or doing anything else, like if music is your only avenue for healing, like that can just be really, really powerful.
Yeah.
I think that again, I just think it's if you combine that with I mean, obviously, I can't separate both of my
No, I
careers in
gotcha.
conversation, but you can't if you have intention and awareness plus that, like, oh my God, you would just have a recipe for massive healing. But I mean, I have a song that I wrote about my brother who died, and The song it's not intense lyrically. There's some intense lyrics, but for the most part, it's like just a repetition of this deep emotion that I felt like right the moment that I found out that he was gone. And the thing about like deep traumas like that is that you can't really predict, even if you are going to therapy and you're doing memory work and you're crying it all out, you can't really predict like the intensity of what you're holding on to and when it will end. And I find that sometimes you'll have a release and you'll feel better and then it will come back up again, and that is totally normal. And so having songs or things that you can return to help release when it does come up again, it can be life-saving, honestly.
Yeah. Is there ever a point where revisiting this pain through art becomes counterproductive?
I think that's kind of what I was trying to say in the last, in that last like few sentences, was that, I don't know. I want to put a blanket no on that. I think that it can, I don't know that using music could be, I don't know. You can counterproductively return to things and be addicted to your pain. So I think it depends on like, are you just leaning into the negative, and does it lead to negative thoughts, or is it cathartic? If it's cathartic,
okay.
then it's not counterproductive, because
Got
if
it.
you get some kind of release from it, then you're doing the work. And again, that's what I was saying. You can't necessarily predict whether or not you have more to let go of.
Right.
So if you're feeling it when you're listening or you're writing or you're singing or you're playing or whatever, and you're feeling it and you're giving yourself that opportunity to let go of a little bit more, then it can't be counterproductive.
Makes perfect sense. I get it. Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, many artists struggle with anxiety or self-doubt, and even when they're outwardly successful. So what are some healthy ways to navigate those types of feelings, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think being honest about them is the first thing. And honestly, too, being honest with yourself about whether or not you're trying to numb or whether or not you're really trying to feel what you feel. Because if you're honest about the things that you're feeling, whether it be doubt or fear, then you can acknowledge like, okay, I'm being motivated by these things more often than not. And then again, this goes back to what I'm saying about like intention and awareness. You can be really intentional then about responding to those things and trying to shift them, and like making choices to go out and do it even when you feel afraid, and then making choices to like find the feelings you want to be driven by instead. And I've done quite a bit of work with these two emotions specifically. Last year when I went to Bali, I was trying to manifest completely letting go of all fear and doubt. And it's not completely gone, but it's way less. I feel way more confident. And again, I think it's just about being really intentional about the honesty of what you feel and what you want to feel. And also, again, not being addicted to it. Because if you're addicted to feeling afraid and doubtful, then you're always going to have this kind of like, I feel like I need to perform and it's such a positive thing, but I always get nervous or I always throw up beforehand. And I think you have to let go of those definitives, right? Like, don't tell yourself always or never. Tell yourself sometimes, or tell yourself things are temporary, and then they will be.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, it's the mind is a powerful thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you have control over it. And that's what people need to remember when they feel out of control, which is often like what mental illness is. It's like being out of control and trying to create control, and you're creating control in maladaptive ways. How do we shift that so that we're getting control in a way that's more grounding and peaceful and centered,
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that leads to my next question, and it kind of answered it a little bit already, but how can these artists and creators protect their own mental health when so much of their identity is based or tied to public validation?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think to some extent you kind of just have to like let that go.
Right.
And I don't want to say, that it's impossible to, because again, that's like a definitive thing. Because I find myself noticing when I get more noticed or something like that, you know. But I wonder if it's about reminding yourself maybe of what your core motivation is and why you do it. Sometimes I think you just have to, like, again, just be conscious and remind yourself of what's affecting you and what really matters. So that way you don't get caught up in that, because it would be easy to get caught up in that. But I think for me, like, I just can't emphasize enough how much I feel that, like, performing and creating and even healing is a part of, like, my dharma, which means, like, purpose and, like, why you're here on this planet. And so for me, because I'm so consciously thinking about that, it's easier to redirect myself when I get caught up in thoughts about what other people might be thinking about my work, because it's like, whoever I am supposed to impact, I will impact, you know, and whatever I'm supposed to create, I will create. And I also just really kind of am an intentional person. And so I hope that what I put out there into the world is cathartic for people and therapeutic for people, and it can create more positivity. And so, like, maybe that's about it too. Like, maybe if you reflect on the impact you're having on the world, then eventually you'll feel better about it. You know, I don't know.
What do you think it is about music specifically that makes it such a powerful tool for emotional regulation and healing?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question, because I do think that music is, like, special, because I've done other art forms. But there's just something about music, and I think it's like, I don't know. I was trying to think about, like, what is really happening, you know, like, psychologically. I think that a great thing for people to do is to watch Inside Out. Inside Out is that kids movie, right, about memories.
Right.
And obviously it doesn't tell you exactly what's happening, like, neurologically, but it's pretty accurate to, like, what's going on in your brain and how, and if you watch the second one, like, how beliefs are tied into that. And so when you think about, like, music, like, going back to that song about my brother, for example, what you're doing is you're tapping into, like, those little bubbles that contain emotions, and you're pulling them back up to the surface when you're, like, creating music or performing music or something like that. And so your whole nervous system and everything about what's going on in your mind and your body is, like, activated when you're creating music or when you're performing. And so I guess maybe that's why, like, I had a vocal coach, like, tell me, right, that singing is like a full body workout. And so I think it's like, I think it's that, because the most powerful healing combines all of it, right? It's like what's going on in your mind and your body and your spirit, what's going on with your thoughts and your behaviors and just everything that makes you you, and your personality and your desires and your sense of identity. And so if music, it can tap into all of that, then, like, of course it's the most powerful healing modality. But, like, maybe I'm biased.
Well, I don't think you're biased. I mean, I don't create music, but I listen to a lot of it. And I think it can be just as therapeutic as listening to it as it is creating it. What do you think on that?
Right. Yeah, that is a good question. Because I am definitely biased toward more of a creative experience of it. But I've also had times where I was, you know, just listening to music and connecting with like, messages in music or the raw emotion of it. And so, yeah, I don't know that it's, like, less powerful than creating it. I wouldn't say that. I think it might be just as powerful. I think that's, like, the point, right, of people who do create, is that they are it's giving that gift to those who don't. It's like saying, here's everything that I put into this so that you can also absorb this, like, cathartic experience through your own, like, nervous system. Not to be scientific, but, like, that's, like, what's happening, right?
Right.
Like, you're connecting to it, and you're It's making you reflect on you, or helping you feel things that you might otherwise not have the strength to feel. And I think by connecting too with somebody else, like I'm thinking a lot about like Alanis Morissette's songs that are very like thematic and about life. Like when I, as like an artist who does experience a lot of solitude, is listening to that, it's like I'm feeling like, okay, I'm not alone. And I think anybody, even if you're not creating music, if you're listening to somebody who has reflected on the same things as you, or felt the same things as you, or been through the same pain, or even the same joys, it's like creating that sense of human connection that is so that is foundational to healing, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, finally, from
Yeah.
your unique perspective, because you do straddle both sides very well. Actually, if you want to think about it, all three sides: the listener, the creator, and the counselor therapist side.
Yeah.
What does a healthy creative life look like?
I like this question because I like bringing things full circle. And like I talked a lot about how, like the recipe for a powerful healing experience includes like essentially both sides of what I do. And I think that a healthy creative life doesn't just look like, oh, I'm writing songs every day. It looks like, am I feeding myself? Am I sleeping well? Am I connecting with friends? It's like just essentially the whole picture.
Mhm.
Am I examining like my tendency to self-sabotage, and am I making an effort like not to do that? Am I meditating? But I do think that a good like indicator that I'm not in a healthy space creatively is when I'm not creating.
Oh,
But
okay.
then it's like, if you're not creating, you got to kind of take a look at, okay, so what's affecting that? How do I create space for myself? How do I become healthier so that like I can lean back into that? Does that answer it?
It does.
Okay. Excellent.
Well, Carmynn, thank you for taking some time to talk with us here on Sound Of. We really appreciate your perspective as a therapist, musician, and someone who truly embodies empathy in motion.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate you.
That was Carmynn Bradley, therapist, musician. What I love about her approach is how she bridges the emotional and the expressive, reminding us that while music can reflect what we're going through, it can also become a tool for healing it. Hearing Carmynn talk about creativity and mental health reframed a little bit how I think about Welcome to the Madhouse. This album isn't just a collection of songs. It's the sound of someone working through chaos, turning confusion into clarity, pain into purpose. And maybe that's what makes it universal. We all have our own madhouse, those parts of life that feel overwhelming, unpredictable, and messy. But like Tones and I, maybe we can turn that madness into music. If that conversation resonated with you, take a moment to check in with yourself. Sometimes just naming what we're feeling without judgment is the first note in finding our way back to balance. Throughout Welcome to the Madhouse, Tones and I walks that line between madness and meaning, capturing the chaos of life while still searching for light. That's the heart of this album. It reminds us that even when the world feels unsteady, creativity can be a kind of compass. This has been Sound Of, presented by SONIQLOOX. If this episode connected with you, please share it, subscribe, or simply take a moment, maybe on your own cloudy day, to look up and find the sun. I'm your host, Danny, and this was the Sound Of Tones and Eyes. Welcome to the Madhouse.